Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today? Welcome to my photography chat live stream where we talk about photography and share our passion here. Um, and as always, I always like the audience to drive the conversation. So if you have any questions or like to talk about any particular topic, I'll do my best to answer them or give you my opinion. Uh, and also I like to update, what I've been up to and come together as a community and share some of the things, some photos I did this week. It's been a really busy week for me in terms of getting out there. Partially because I have to review lenses, and I have a couple interesting lenses that I'll be reviewing for Micro Four Thirds actually, and one Sony. Also, I got in this IT32 flash. I know a lot of you have been waiting for me to review this as well. So we'll see. It's pretty nice, very, very compact. I'm pretty sure I'm going to recommend this over the TT350 from now on, because with the hot shoe here, which is also a trigger, because you can it just magnetically attaches, so this stays on the camera as a trigger, and you can use this off camera. I really haven't had any time with it, but I did do a quick focus stacking with it, and it's perfect. Of course it would be, right? But it's nice. It's all updated with the new OLED screen, and the light output. I'm not quite sure what the light output is, so we'll measure that and compare it against, say, TT350 and a V480. It's not going to be as bright, I think, as either of those, but certainly more than enough. Then these two lenses. This is an interesting lens. This is a 6mm fisheye lens, f2. And it doesn't have much barrel distortion. I'll show you a few images I took with this. I don't think it's been released yet. It has been announced though, because it's on B&H's website. Hopefully I'm not jumping the gun here. But they didn't say, I don't recall them saying don't tell anybody. Well, anyway, I'll show you a few pictures for this. If anybody asks, I didn't show you this lens. Okay. Good. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for letting me know about the audio and video. That really helps. I started a few minutes late because the audio was so low. I was like, what's going on? What's going on? And for whatever reason, the mic was set down to 60% or something in the computer. I can't figure that out. It still looks a little bit hot. I'm just going to drop it just a tiny bit. Right about there. Okay. So anyhow, let's see who's here. I see Henning's here. Good morning. And I have to get the chat to show, I have to do this. So that should pop up the chat. So Henning is here. Good to see you. Adam, good morning. Happy holiday. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's Christmas this week and then New Year's next week. So if I don't see you guys again, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I should be back live again between now and the New Year. But, yeah, it's going to be busy. So I probably won't do a photo editing stream on Friday, which is Christmas Day. Hopefully opening up lots of gifts, and giving lots of gifts, I bought some great gifts this year. I'm really, really happy with I don't know why I struggled in previous years, but this year I didn't have any problem thinking, this person needs that and this person wants this, so I'm excited to give out some gifts that I got this week. And I always have to refresh as it never launches on its own. Yeah, streaming is always it's kind of a roll of the dice for me every week, right? If I'm live, if I'm on time, which is almost never, and then audio and video. But hopefully the audio and video looks good now. It should be good. And then I always second guess if the time is my time or Rob's time, which of course wouldn't work if it was Rob's time, as the video plays worldwide. Yeah. YouTube should say it's starting in 10 minutes or whatever. Normally I do my I do my shopping stream today where I talk about, look for deals and stuff online. But, I missed Sunday because I had to go to a Christmas party, which was great. Some of you that are here might have gone to that party. Because a lot of you that watch me are local, which is kind of neat. It's a little awkward though, because not that I'm a different person online than I am, in real life. I'm the same, but I feel like my YouTube personality is a little different than in real life. I think the key difference is in real life, I don't just jibber jabber for 2 hours straight, right? I'm pretty quiet in person and I don't talk a whole lot unless there's a conversation going on, right? But I don't just sit there and just talk, if nobody's listening. Anyhow, good morning from Arizona and audio and video top, thank you. And Ethan is here. Hey Ethan, how are you? And Intrigue, good to see you. Oh, and you saw the photos, are great. Okay, I'll share a few today. And good morning from Southern Indiana. Good to see you, David. And good morning, TQ. Good to see you. And X-Meta, always good to see you. And Marco, of course, longtime viewer, but not only that, a great supporter of my channel and very generous in the donations and other things you've done for me over the years in support. And Anthony, good to see you from Canada. And good morning, ATR Bear. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you. And Heather, good to see you. Okay, God, Florida. You're in Florida too? Oh, that's freaking awesome. It's so cold here. I'm always cold, as you can see. I'm just layering up. I got 4 layers on today. Long sleeve t-shirt, a shirt, sweater vest, and this kind of jacket. Okay. And Adam says, I was never a fan of people who say read the manual in our Facebook camera help group, not for newbies. Not now that I have shot for a while, reading the manual is useful, but experience first helps. Yes. And Rob, you're a cool guy in person too, always an inspiration. Oh, thanks. Yeah, Intrigue or Eric, he's local in the photo club with David. So we get together time to time every month for some photo walks, which is awesome. So funny thing, I got spotted yesterday. I was having dinner with a friend after a photo walk, and I'll share a photo that I took yesterday after that. Or before we went to dinner, we did a photo walk with some friends, and I'm sitting there, and the guy walks by and goes, Rob, Micro Four Thirds. I says, yeah. And I had this OM3 with this fisheye lens on it, so we chit chat for about a minute, but he was very polite and didn't want to interrupt the dinner I was having. So, but that was a rare sighting. Once in a blue moon, someone will recognize me from YouTube. But it's usually like at events, right? Like the camera store will be having some event at their store, and I'll go there, and people recognize me, of course, but not just random, like at a restaurant, But anyhow, that's what I've been up to. And Adam says, read the manual isn't everyone's learning manual and loses his camera fans before they get started. Yeah. Christmas is Thursday. What? Wait. Oh, crap. It's Thursday. Wow, thanks. Boy, I almost missed everything. Or I would have, because I'd probably be out on a photo walk or something if I thought if I didn't know it was Christmas. Ooh, ooh, why did I think it was Friday? That's weird. I could have sworn I would have bet that I found $10 this week on a photo walk. It's right here. So I was walking, and you gotta have as a photographer, you look around, right? And I saw this $5 bill laying on the ground. I'm like, holy crap, $5. I was so excited. And I says, man, there might be some more laying around here, right? Because it was a parking lot near a shopping center. So I walked like 3 blocks around the parking lot and stuff. And I found another $5. Oh, man. And I got a few shots along the way, too. But yeah, this was kind of the highlight. But I'll show you a few shots I took the morning I found this $10. That was awesome. And then I posted this, and a lot of you said, man, somebody found like $5,000 once. I don't think if you put together all the money I ever found on a photo walk together, it would come to more than a couple $100. Like I found a 21 time, and once I found a 20. Sometimes I'll find a 5 or 10 or a couple of ones, but yeah, not 5,000. That's crazy. Oh my God. And Ethan says, I really enjoy Olympus OM system. I've been shooting Olympus film and want to use those film lenses on the digital camera with full frame. What cheap full frame suggests to get full view? Oh, okay. I would say the Nikon Z5. If you want to get a used one, $500. I've seen it as on the Nikon refurb site for like 450, thanks to Eric Jennings, who pointed that out. The Nikon refurb site had it for 450 bucks. But I've seen it on eBay like in the $600 range. And that's a great camera, great 24 megapixel sensor, probably the same one that was in my old D750. And, if you want to buy brand new, I'm kind of partial to Nikon for adapting lenses. I don't know why. But I really like adapting lenses mostly to my own system cameras. But yeah, I would say look at Nikon for adapting lenses. I'm trying to think why though. I don't know why. I love the color, the Nikon color that you get. And yeah, that's primarily it is. I just love the output from the Nikon sensor, but stay with the low megapixel sensors. Because vintage lenses are not perfect, right? They have a lot of issues. And having a bigger pixel pitch will compensate for some of the defects in vintage lenses. So you'll get better results. Because if you have too fine a pixel pitch, like if you get a 60 megapixel Sony or something, it's going to pick up every chromatic aberration and every soft, outline. But, 24 megapixel sensor, or if you can find a 16 megapixel sensor, like go back to a Nikon D700, that would be, oh, I'm sorry, you can't do that. You need mirrorless. Oh, yeah, I don't think there's any mirrorless 16 megapixel full frame cameras. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any. So you have to go with like a Z5. That might be your best bet. Or a Z6 if you want just a few more features. Hopefully I have some stuff to share this week. Any holiday images, just a night photo, holiday lights walk, and sadly got better. Images from my cell phone. Okay. I don't really have too many. I did a Christmas light show Uh, those, I don't know, I didn't find the images all that interesting. I mean, it was great to see the lights when I went, you know, so I really enjoyed going out and seeing all the lights, but I didn't really take any very good pictures. And so yeah, I'll show you what I have, but they were just okay. What's the smallest camera you have? Today everybody jumps on Kodak. Oh gosh, it's probably one of my old compacts, like the Canon ELPH. I think is the smallest one I have, and that's 10 times, 100 times better than that Kodak Charisma or whatever it's called. Um, this and this is something in the same class as that Kodak uh, Charmsra. Is that what it's called? I think this is better than the Kodak, in my opinion. Not that I've ever tried the Kodak, but I just think this is much cooler looking. I mean, let's say the image quality is the same. I still like this better because of the styling. And the EVF is on top. I think Robin has both. He has this and the Kodak. He could do a comparison video if he wanted to. But I like this one better just for the styling. And you know, you look from the top down. It's a little awkward. But yeah, I think this is my smallest camera. It still powers up. No memory card, but this is a great camera. This has a CMOS CCD sensor in it, which is kind of neat. What is the smallest camera I have? Probably lost it. I can't think of anything smaller. I think this is it. This is my smallest. Fits in the shirt pocket very easily. Takes really good black and white photos, actually. And color and everything else. It's really a nice little camera. It's pretty responsive. Let's see how fast it powers up. So I'm gonna push it. Yeah, like 1 second to start up. And takes a picture instantly. That's great. Okay. Rob realizes Christmas is Thursday and immediately ends the live stream to finish his shopping. No, I'm done. I'm pretty diligent about gift shopping. I'm not a last minute shopper. I get that all done. Have you checked out the Bull Run? I haven't. Not this year. I went about 5 or 6 years ago because they have like a carnival at the end, and that's pretty cool to get some photos when you get to the end of the light show. Because the Bull Run, for those of you not familiar with it, you drive your car down this road, and along the road are all these Christmas lights set up on trees, and they have fixtures and all kinds of things. And then when you get to the end of it, there's a carnival there. As if, you know, like the $10 or $20 admission fee wasn't enough. They have a carnival there with all kinds of games and rides and things that you have to pay to get in and do. But yeah, that's not a bad idea. That would be a great place to get some photos. Carnivals are always an awesome place to get photos because you don't have to be conspicuous like a lot of street photography, right? You can just have your camera out and just snap away. Okay, and Ethan says, I just love the Olympus colors and I love the look of the 90 f2 Olympus film lens. Oh, okay. I'm having trouble reading this. I want to be able to get the same field of view as a 35mm film camera give. Yeah, so you know, I love Olympus colors, I think the best, but Nikon is right up there. I mean, I like it equally as much. And Canon's not bad. Sony is, oh my God, Sony is so hard. I don't know why, because some images look great, and then other images I'm like, I can't get the colors the way I want. Uh, Canon, I've never really had an issue. They're just okay, but I didn't have to correct color, right? The colors that I get out of it seem fine. Slightly different, but Nikon, I rarely like to change it too much from the original Nikon colors. I think they look good. And David Black, the TG6 is your smallest. Yeah, this is only a little smaller than the TG6, particularly in the depth. It's not as deep until you turn it on. Then it's bigger, right? Because the TG6 has the sort of the L-shaped lens design. They keep all of the zoom lenses inside the camera and go back and forth horizontally, versus this, you know, goes out vertically. So I guess it's 6 of one, half the other, right? Do you ever edit your images or go ever? Okay, do you always edit images, or do you ever go straight to JPEG and leave them untouched? I would say I'm about 80-20. 80% I edit and 20% I just leave it. I'll show you some straight out of camera today. Oh, okay, and you're welcome, Ethan. Yeah, Z5 or Z6, those are two really good choices, I think, for vintage glass. Okay. And Eric says, not M43 talk, but been offered a good deal on a Canon R3. Yep, it's heavy, but such a good deal. Oh, the R3. Man, that thing is, that's the dual grip monster. I wouldn't do it. What you can do is you can look at a video from a while ago. It had Chris Nichols. He compared the R3 against the OM1 Mark I, I believe it was. I think it was that camera. It might have been the EM1 Mark III, but I think it was the OM1. That would be a good video to watch before you pull the trigger on an R3. Because it'll either, you know, affirm all of the things that you like about the R3, or you might say it's not that much difference, you know, which is where I stand on it. I think the R3 is a 20 megapixel too, right? It's the same megapixel, but they're, you know, they're big pixels, of course. I think, God, Eric, if you have, I just wouldn't do it, because then you got to buy all the glass, because I don't think you have any Canon glass right now. And that's another rabbit hole, man, when you start getting into Canon glass, because they have a lot of good full frame glass, a lot of great EF glass that you can adapt. That works great with the EF adapter. And I bought a third-party adapter for mine. Only paid like $35 for it, and it works great. And it's a full electrical with autofocus and everything. But I don't know. You're better off adapting lenses to one of your L-mount cameras, because that that S1R Mark II is, man, way better than, you know, I don't know if you have any 24 megapixel L-mount bodies, though, do you? That would be even better. And hey, Robin, friend from Hopewell, New Jersey. Oh, that's right. You're in the States. Spending Christmas. Festive greetings to everyone. So yeah, Merry Christmas. Good to see you, Jeff. I'm sorry we couldn't get together this year, but maybe next year. Because he's about 3 hours north of me right now, which is drivable. Still not out of out of reach, but I think you're sure your visit's gonna be a little short, so you're not gonna have time to really get together anyway. Oh, you have the EF adapter for the R7 you sold. Okay, but do you have any lenses left? If you want to start buying lenses again, and then you'll be like, oh, that's not really, I just can't imagine, because when I had my S5 and my S1R, there is nothing Canon can't touch it, in my opinion, in terms of just the optical quality of those lenses, and then the image quality I got from those cameras were just stellar. And an R3, man, I just don't see it. Although I like Canon cameras, I love my R8. It's such a good little camera. You know, I've taken, I don't use it that much, but the shots I've taken with the 50mm 1.8 and the, I only have two lenses for it, and the kit lens, it's a 24-105, like f7 or some ridiculous number. But since I do flash, you know, I prefer like f7, f8, you know, when I'm shooting flash anyway. You got rid of the R7, so you're already familiar with, you know, Canon colors and menus and all of that. Just a matter of if it's worth it to go into an R3 just because it's a good deal. Like if somebody gave me an R3, I'd be like, okay, sure, why not? But yeah, I'd be hard pressed to start buying lenses for it, even if I had the money, because I'd rather save up for maybe that 50 to 200, which I've said over and over I don't need, but I can gas for it. And then the 150 to 400 is the lens I really want. That would be where I would put my money, is the 150 to 400 eventually. All right, let me go ahead and share a few images, because I do want to share some ideas or some things I've been experimenting with that I touched on briefly several streams ago, but well, I'll come back to that. I'll save that for a little bit later. But I've been stacking images, either doing focus bracketing or stacking through smart objects using the mean average like you would do in astrophotography, but doing it for wildlife. And the results are fairly consistent. I always get a better image when I can stack. It's tough though. I took like a series of 20 or 30 images, and I only found 5 out of those 20 or 30 that I could stack, you know, because the bird moves sometimes, and sometimes it misses focus a little bit in between. But let's see. Let me go to my, I'm just going to use a basic browser here. I think I left off the last stream somewhere in here, like with this image. So I went to Conowingo again. So I'm pretty sure I didn't show these images, but yeah, this is just a seagull shot. Getting a little practice in before I could get some of the eagles, right? Conowingo Dam's kind of known for eagles. And these came out good. And of course, this is the OM3 with the 300mm f4 and the 1.4x teleconverter. I think I might, yeah, I did bring the 75 to 300, but I don't think I kept any of the images for showing here. This is a juvenile eagle, just flying overhead. And I like this shot here. There's 2 eagles here. There's the one here in focus, and then there's one up here in the background, a little bit out of focus. But I just thought it was just a nice complement of very earthy tone colors. You know, these deep reds and the grays, and then having the bird, you know, the eagle itself really stands out, I think, against this backdrop. but it's all very complementary. These browns go really well with these deep reds. And there's some browns here in the trees and stuff. But I love this shot. This is one of my favorites from the day. And then, yeah, that's another one. They were really far back, though. I didn't get any good close-up shots of bald eagles. I got a couple of the close-ups of the juveniles because they came over. But the bald eagles, they stayed pretty far back. This guy was way back. This image is only 8 megapixels. Whoops. So the eagle itself is probably less than 1 megapixel here. But this was kind of a cool shot. I got the seagull here and another bald eagle kind of sitting back here. And I got this one. This is about a 1 megapixel image total. So there's less than 1 megapixel on the eagle. But he had just grabbed a fish. I got him coming in, hitting the water and coming back out. But this was the only shot I thought was interesting because you can see the fish and a little bit of splash of water. Yeah, another juvenile. This is a different one, I think. Oh, this was a good shot of a seagull. The seagulls, they don't use their talons to grab the fish. They just pick them up with their beaks. Of course, they have to pick smaller fish. But yeah, so what's funny is like 3 or 4 seagulls will see the same fish and they'll all dive in at the same time to get it. And then only one comes up with it. So that was a lot of fun to watch. All these seagulls just coming in on the same fish, and they don't really fight each other for it. They just, whoever gets it, and the others just kind of sit there kind of pissed off, just because they don't fly off. They don't fly off and chase the one that caught the fish. I guess because they know he's going to swallow it instantly, right? What they do is they just kind of sit in the water and mope, and then eventually take off again. But I thought this was a pretty good shot of him catching the fish. He's trying to reposition it to swallow it here. And let's see. This is another nice shot just of the trees. I love trees. It's one of my personal favorite subjects to photograph. And there's eagles sitting, in the tree in the background. They're really hard to see though, because they're way, way back. But there's one there. It looks like he's actually caught something and is eating it. And I think, no, that's just a nest or something. So it's just this one eagle here. But I thought that was a nice, just a nice scene of a tree. This one I think I showed before. This one, yeah, this didn't come out too good. This is some red-headed bird. But I think, what was my shutter speed? What was a problem here? Yeah, the shutter speed was just too slow. 1/2000th. This is a very small bird. So you really have to have your shutter speed higher, like 1/4000th. And then I think I would have got a good image of this, but there's just too much motion blur here. Okay, and I'll come back to this one. This one here, yeah, Canada goose. What's kind of different about this shot is I laid the camera down almost all the way onto the ice here. This water is all frozen. So I tried to catch one as they were taking off. So I got them. And a little bit different perspective than I usually get of geese. This is what I usually get, them just flying over. And then I just love this pose here that this one goose is doing. He's got one leg up and he's just kind of looking at the camera. This one too, this one's kind of cute. But they all got their eye at the camera, which was kind of nice. And they're just standing on the ice. But yeah, somehow this picture I kind of liked. And yeah, there's that same red bird. But you can see this one, when he's just sitting there, he was pretty far away again. But you can see there's a lot more detail, right, in this bird than the one in flight capture. The one in flight was terrible. But this one came out pretty good. And I'll show you a couple more of this guy. There he is again. And same guy. They're just feeding. It's really good light. Okay, so I'll stop there because there's a bunch more here that I'll talk about. Let me see. I saw a couple of questions come up. And Grave Azzini is here. Happy Festivus. And Adam says, already have OM flashes, but am receiving the new Godox flash with the changeable base trigger, and we'll see if the flash warrants buying the OM base. The i32. Yeah, that's this one here. The i32. So, yeah, I have one for Canon, and I have a base. This is the Canon one. They also sent me the Olympus one. Whenever I can, I say, send me both. You know, send me one for Canon, send me one for Olympus or Fuji or whatever. And they usually do. They usually send me both. So I'm going to try and review that, but I don't see any problems with it right now. I need to measure the light output just to kind of put it in perspective with some of the other flashes available. Of course, the other flashes are larger and some are smaller, like the IT30 would be a good comparison, right? Because that's a smaller flash. Is it as bright as this or not as bright? You know, and they're about the same price, right? The IT30 is like 80 bucks and this one is 100. So they're pretty close in price, but this has a lot more functionality than the IT30. You know, because you can tilt it and swivel it, right? And it's tiny. I don't know how I can portray that. Just put it on my hand, and I have small hands, but this is tiny. Next Meta says, do you use AFC with pre-capture or just AFS? Lucky Snap. I always use AFC. Oh, always. And Adam says, I picked up the M10 Mark III and replaced my Pen EP5. Really dislike all the things they took away in the 30 M10 model. However, paired with the 14 to 42 Easy, this is a very portable setup. Yep. Yeah, they took away a few things, right? The main thing I missed when they went from the Mark II to the Mark III was the My Sets, you know, which are basically being able to save custom functions. There are a few other things as well that they added back in firmware. But I think the other thing was being able to use silent shutter was another one. You can use silent shutter, but you have to be like an auto mode of some kind. I don't think you can use silent shutter with just aperture priority, but let me know. I don't have the Mark III or the Mark IV because they got rid of the custom settings. And that was the deal breaker for me. It wasn't that it was a plastic body or, you know, anything else. And the Mark IV, they added 4K video, and the screen, I think, flips down now all the way. So the Mark IV would have been a good camera if they would have put the My Sets back in or the custom settings. But I skipped it, you know. But it is a nice portable setup. Okay. Heather says, the fighter just flew over, and of course I stepped inside. We were staying near Tyndall Air Base. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of random, right? Don't worry about it. It's just one of those things, you know? It's like I was shooting my wide angle lens, and then there were like woodpeckers in a tree right above me, and I was like, oh crap, you know? I didn't have my telephoto on. And by the time I was even started thinking about switching lenses, they flew away. But, you know, I can't get mad about it. That's just the way it is. All right, let me share a couple more images. So I wanted to talk about focus stacking using the mean. So I put together these three images. So this image here, this is the raw. This is the raw image. So we're at ISO 3200 at 5.6, and there's a big problem with this image that I didn't see until I started processing it. But you know, as you can see, there's a ton of noise. And then let me size these about the same. This image here is processed with DxO Deep Prime. So let's look down here at the tail. So as you can see, Deep Prime brought back a lot of the little fine lines and details in the feathers, right? Especially down here along the stomach and his legs. You can see over here is just mush, and then over here you can actually see some details. And then this last image here, I don't know if you can read this, but it's a stacked 7 mean, stacked. This is just a stacked image with no noise reduction or anything like that applied. But stacking images, just like HDR, I'm sorry, high-res shot mode, it reduces the noise because you're stacking images together. And this is the image I got, just simply stacking them. But this image, and again, let's go back to the tail here, and I'll explain why. But like the feather detail, there's nothing here. There's some here, but there's a lot more right in here. This is a little bit too close maybe to look at, but I want to make sure you can see it because we're on a stream. But it's very, very subtle. It's very subtle, the differences. But there's definitely more detail here with the stacked image. If we go to the, let's go to the head. But yeah, you can definitely see more feather details in the stack set than you can the noise reduced one and of course the raw image. So that's one experiment, that's one of many experiments I'm doing, or many trials I should say, for this particular method. Not the best example though, because I don't know if you can see it, but apparently there was a stick in front of this bird. I didn't see it when I was looking through the EVF because of the shallow depth of field. But you can see it right here. It's black and then it turns brown between here and here. These black feathers, it should be black all the way from here back to here. So there was a stick in front of this bird. So that's why everything is like so soft, or more soft over here than I think it would have been otherwise. And yet, like I said, we did extract some good details. So now we're pixel peeping at 200, 300, 400%. But I think ultimately this is the best image of the three, even though there's still a tiny bit of noise in it. Ultimately, I think this is the best image. Now, let me show you another example. This is edit, stacked, and what is this? I don't think I have a straight out of camera one for this. Yeah, so we'll skip that last one. All right, so this one on the left, again, it's 5 stacked images, no denoising applied. But this time I'm at like ISO 400 instead of ISO 3200. And then this one is the same image, but with DxO, noise reduction, sharpening, optical corrections, all of that stuff, right? So if we punch in, and this is the one where I only found 5 images that I could stack. But let's go all the way in. Oops. Hopefully you can see how much more detail there is in the beak versus over here it looks just a little bit soft, right? And then as we go down, if you look at the neck, again, you can see more details here than over here. And then this one little tail here, this little wisp of feather, is kind of spread out because I'm stacking images and the wind is blowing, right? So this is going to move a little bit. And this is going to come into play as we go further down the bird. But let me go down to this part here. And you'll notice, or you should be able to see, the feather detail here is much finer than it is over here. Tiny bit more noise because, again, no noise reduction. But, we're pixel peeping here at 500%. So now we're at 200%. And this is where it gets a little bit random because the bird is, not only is there wind, but the bird is breathing, right? So the chest is coming in and out just ever so slightly between these stacked images. So I did notice a tiny bit of loss in fine detail when I got down to the chest area. Like this wing, the detail looks a little better on the wing in the DxO version because the wind was blowing these fine feathers kind of all the way around. But again, ultimately, yeah, the detail is better here. Like if you look at these feathers in here versus the ones over here, a little bit of wind blur here. But like, if you look at, we're at 500% again, look at the feather detail here versus the feather detail over here. Just ever so slightly better, right? So what I would have liked to have done, if it was possible, is to do a high-res shot mode here and compare that against this focus stacking method. Not focus stacking, I'm sorry. Exposure stacking. Because I'm not focus stacking, I'm actually just blending the same exposure, same focal point. I'm just blending exposures using the mean method in Photoshop. But yeah, I think the most dramatic differences you'll see is really what we saw in the beak and along the neckline in terms of detail. Very fine details in the feathers. Right in here versus, say, this looks a little bit soft. And then the beak. So that's just one of the things I've been messing around with this week because I had the opportunity. So basically what I do is I shoot at 50 frames per second when I have the bird in focus, and then I try to pick as many as I can that the bird's not moving, right? But even at 50 frames per second, the bird, they just move a lot. The bird can just tilt his head a little bit and I can't use the shot. So luckily I was able to get 5 shots in this case where the bird didn't move. There were a couple of shots where the focus shifted a little bit, and I couldn't use those either. Like they weren't quite as pin sharp as the frame before it. I don't know why that is. Just slight adjustment there. Maybe if I used single autofocus instead of, continuous autofocus, I would have gotten more frames to stack. So I'll have to experiment. But I'm going to keep messing around with that and keep you guys posted here in the live stream how that works out. And just, just having fun. On the other hand, I'm just making photography hard, right? Why am I trying so hard just to get that one extra little line of detail in the feather? I don't know. I don't know why. But sometimes I just feel like doing it, That's what we do. We have this, we just want to do it. See, it's like, why does a man climb a mountain? Well, because it's there. So why do I do these other techniques? Well, because I can try, right? And I always seem to have the wrong lens on. Yeah, so I have a deal with anybody I go out on a photo walk. If we're going to do birding, we both bring a telephoto and a wide angle lens, right? And preferably a fisheye. And I'll be like, okay, so if you want to get some bird shots, you can go ahead and put the telephoto on, and I'll put on my wide angle. And that's when the birds will be coming out for you. And then we swap. And Eric says, what do you think of the 150 to 600? So David's a better person to ask. I've only used it a few times. And I don't have enough hands-on experience with it. But the couple times I used it, I didn't even use it on my camera. I just used it on David's camera. Well, no, I take that back. About when he first bought it, I did use it on my camera for some hummingbird shots, and they were freaking awesome. So I would say, in terms of sharpness, and I was shooting at the 600 millimeter focal length, because you know how small hummingbirds are. They're like, they're like the size of a walnut. I was pretty impressed. That in combination with DxO, right? Straight out of camera, everything looks ridiculous to me now. But when I processed with DxO, I got excellent results, even at 600 millimeters wide open in marginal lighting, because I was like at ISO 12,000 on a pretty regular basis. So I would say the sharpness is fine. It's not quite the level of the 300 f4. Honestly, it's not quite the level, but that's the compromise you make for that reach, right? So I haven't done like side-by-side comparison with the 300 f4 at the same focal lengths, right? With the 600, 150 to 600. But I can tell you the few shots I got when I was shooting those hummingbirds, I was very impressed. And the few times I used it on his camera, I didn't even, I just took pictures with his camera, looking through the EVF and pixel peeping the images after I took them. I was very impressed. So let me pull up my hummingbird shot. So let's see. This is the 300 f4. This is already cropped in. This is as big as I can make it. This is the 150. Yeah, this is the 150 to 600. And look at the ISO. ISO 8000 down here. Amazing sharpness and detail I got out of this lens. Let's look at the next one here. This one is also, this is my 300 f4. And this is also, this is at ISO 2500, so you can't really compare these side by side. But the 300 f4 is pretty reliable. It's probably one of their sharpest lenses. I mean, top tier. 300 f4, 150 to 400, the 50 to 200, This is top tier glass from OM Systems, Olympus. You're not going to get any better than this. This one here, this is the 150 to 600 to 6400. Again, you know, with DxO, amazing detail and sharpness. This one is also the 150 to 600, ISO 12800. Now you can see a little bit of the noise reduction, right, process. Kind of taking away some of the detail or making up detail. I don't know. It's not perfect. You can see it here in the wing. It's just creating detail here that shouldn't be there. But generally speaking, yeah, the sharpness out of this lens is amazing. But that's not the whole story, right? There's, what's this? This is the 300 f4, of course. This is at ISO 6400. But let me just give you this link if you guys want to. There's the link, the Flickr link, so you can kind of look at it if you want. Hopefully that works. So that's not the whole story, because there's the image stabilization and the autofocus speed. Image stabilization also excellent. Amazing, amazing image stabilization. Autofocus speed, fair, okay? So when I talk about autofocus speed, I'm talking about from point A to point B and initial acquisition. Part of that has to do with the fact that it's a slower lens. You know, it has a smaller aperture, so not as much light is hitting the sensor. So the actual acquisition speed is not quite as good as the 300 f4, but good enough, right? That's not gonna be a deal breaker for me to get that lens. What might be a deal breaker for me, because the sharpness is fine, initial acquisition is fine. What might be a deal breaker, and image stabilization is awesome. So the initial thing is the point A to point B autofocus. It is nowhere near as fast as the 300 f4, or probably any pro lens from OM Systems, because the 150 to 600 is not a pro lens. Going from point A to point B, so subjects like the hummingbird, I noticed that if I got them into focus, you know, they're on a stick, and then they fly off away from me or towards me, right? The lens can't quite keep up, right? With them flying very quickly forward or backwards. Fortunately, most times when we're taking pictures of birds, they're flying across or at some angle, and you don't have to worry about it too much. But if you're going to be shooting subjects that are running, that are really fast, I'm not talking about a person. Like a person running towards you, the lens is going to be fine, right? People are slow. We are the slowest creature on the planet, in my opinion, for our size. I mean, Ellie's about 1/3 my size, maybe a quarter, and she can outrun me 10 to 1. You know, but very fast moving subjects, you know, backyard birding, for example, right? When I do backyard birding, these birds, you know, they fly from a tree, off a tree, and they come down towards me like this. Yeah, the autofocus is not gonna be able to keep up if they fly down and towards me, towards the bird feeder, because they might be in the background and I get a focus lock on them and they come towards me. But if they're flying from the tree across, yeah, no problem, right? the little micro focus adjustment it has to make as it's flying at a moderate angle or horizontally, you know, parallel to the focal plane, obviously, no problem at all. So the reach is amazing. And then when you add like the teleconverters to it, the reach is just unbelievable. You have to be in broad daylight though, because you're like at f9, f11, depending on, you know, which teleconverter you're using. So I don't think I might try a 1.4x teleconverter with it, but I wouldn't bother with a 2x. That's when you start to really see the defects of the lens. Where it's like you could use a 2x, even on a 300 f4, using a 2x teleconverter, I can see a little bit loss in detail. Whereas with the 1.4 teleconverter, very minimal, if any, can I tell the difference between using a teleconverter, a 1.4 teleconverter and no teleconverter. But the 2x, I can definitely see it. And that's only amplified on the 150 to 600 if you want to use a teleconverter. I wouldn't do more than 1.4. But you can talk to David. David's tolerance, I think, is a little bit higher than mine. I don't know. You can talk to David about his experience with it. He might even let you borrow it if you want to try it out for a bit and see how the autofocus is. And honestly, all of those things aren't even deal breakers for me, because the lens performed overall really, really well. You know, whether it was autofocus speed, IBIS, everything was more than good enough, because the compromises are very minimal in exchange for that reach that you get. The deal breaker for me is just the size and weight of the thing. I would definitely be monopod with a gimbal 24/7 with that lens. There's no way I could handhold that thing for any length of time. So that's kind of the only deal breaker for me, and why I haven't bought that lens yet, because I've had many opportunities to get a really good deal on it. And I just never pulled the trigger, because I'm thinking my 300 f4 is so much smaller and lighter. With the teleconverter, I'm at 420 millimeters. Is 600 really going to help me? And then even if I add the teleconverter to it, then I'd lose the light, right? So honestly, I'm still on the fence. And if somebody gave me one, I'd probably use it. But before I drop 2,000 or more on whatever the, you know how prices are, whatever the price is, I say to myself, I could use that $2,000 and apply it towards a 150 to 400. That's kind of my dream lens, because the ability to zoom out and do different kinds of shots, because anytime I want to do a slightly wider angle shot, I have to swap lenses. You know, when I put the 300 f4 on, I'm pretty much committed to birding, right? Birds in flight, bird on a stick, pretty much committed to that. But there are times when, you know, yeah, if I was like at a 200 millimeters, I could get the frame that I want, you know, the framing. Because tracking, a lot of people like to zoom out to find the bird, then they zoom in, you know, and that definitely helps a little in acquisition. But I've gotten pretty good to where I can spot a bird in the sky, and within a second I can get it in the frame, even with my 300 and f1.4 teleconverter. I'm pretty good at that. And I use the hot shoe with the end of the lens. You know, you get the parallax right. I can kind of look over my camera, get the bird in my sights, and then once I get it up to my eye, you know, it's pretty fast. But there's plenty of times when I wish I could zoom out and get a different field of view for the different composition that I want to get. So I would definitely get the 150 to 400, and I would save up for that versus, say, just getting, you know. But if the 150 to 400 is not in your budget ever, right? Like you would never spend $8,000 or whatever the price is on a lens. Then the 150 to 600 is a really good option. It's a really, really good option. So that's my opinion on that lens in my experience. And you have more colorful birds than we have here in Oregon. Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes, yeah. Depends on the season, I guess, right? Moxie says, if you have an in-camera stack set, is there a way to see in DxO which frames were part of the stack? Yes. What you would do is in DxO, you would stack them by timestamp. I haven't actually used the feature, but I did try it and it works. But when you do a sequence, right, in high speed shot, like SH2 or SH1, you're going to capture 50 or so images in 1 second, and it'll automatically stack all of those images together into one block based on the timestamp. But you can't necessarily tell like yeah, you would have to do it by timestamp. But a lot of times what I do, like if I'm focus bracketing, I'll put my hand in front of the lens at either the beginning or the end of the stack. And when I'm doing multi-row panoramas and stuff, I'll do the same thing. I'll put my hand in front of the lens so that I know that I can visually see in the thumbnails where my stacking or panorama, stitching begins and ends. I always do that. I don't rely on the software to try to figure out or tell me where the stacking or bracketed sets begin and end. I try to always make a physical one, and usually I can just eyeball it. Adam says, I've had the Mark II 6 years. Oh, this is for Adam, sorry. And I can't see I'm going to try doing some Christmas light photography with a 4mm circular fisheye, assuming I have the time. Yeah, so you want to dial in probably at least a -1, but maybe -2 exposure comp. Or in other words, you want to underexposure images by about 1 or 2 stops. Just so you can get the colors of the lights and everything accurately. Because if you expose it normally, it might overexpose the lighting, and you're going to lose some of the colors. Oh my goodness! Merry Christmas, Robin Wong, buddy. How you doing? Good to see you here. And Larry says hello. And Christmas lights with a crazy wide angle sounds fun. Yes. And George is here. Good to see you. Merry Christmas. And when I go out with a Super Tele, I go out with a second camera, even if it's just the GR. I do that sometimes. I'll carry like the 12 to 45 on one camera and my 300 on the other. But if I'm out birding, it's a little awkward to have 2 cameras on me. I need to be nimble, But that's a me problem. A lot of people are just fine walking around with 2 cameras, right? And happy Christmas to you, Rob, and everyone. Thank you, Barry. Merry Christmas to you. And let's see. Gap says, have the Nikon Z5 Mark II, the Viltrox 22.8, the 42.0, the 135 1.8. All Viltrox, I assume. Awesome lenses. Also have the OM3 25-45 and 12-45 headed to Japan. What all would you take? Everything? Wow, there's a lot of variables there when you talk about traveling. I don't travel. I've not been on a plane since 1999. So I can't speak to airport packing, carry-on, none of that. But if I could just beam over there, what would I bring? But I think how you travel with the cameras makes a big difference, right? So the OM stuff is going to be smaller. Not by much though. All the Viltrox stuff is pretty small, right? Assuming you have the Viltrox Air lenses, you know, the plastic ones. But honestly, the 20 millimeter 2.8 is pretty nice. Having that extra wide angle, this is what I would do. I would bring the Z5 II with the 20 millimeter 2.8, and then the OM3 with those 3 lenses. And I think that would be it. I wouldn't bother to bring a 40, a 135. I would just bring, because I think the 135 1.8 is a monster lens, or it's pretty big. So I would leave those 2 at home. Because the 22.8 is a pretty nice wide lens. I mean, I know thinking, you know, the 12 millimeter on the 12 to 45 versus 20 millimeters on a full frame, there's not that much difference, but it's huge. It can make a big difference in your photography, in your compositions. Having that wide angle right up front, right? That's the way I would go. And I'm pretty sure that's what I would do. Because if I didn't have a wide angle lens for my OM system cameras, you know, another option might be just go get a wide angle lens. Oh, sorry. Just go get a wide angle lens for your OM systems before you leave, and then you're done. You know, pick up the 9 to 18 or the 9 millimeter Panasonic f1.8. If you can pick up one of those, that would be the way I'd go. But I don't see a need to bring both. Yeah. And the reach for the 135, what's that, about a 70? A little less than 70 on micro four thirds. Yeah, that's not much difference. On the long end, you know, it's never long enough. So going from, we have a 90 millimeter equivalent to a 135, it's not that much difference. Great tip for the stacks, and Merry Christmas, everyone. Good to see you. Thank you, Julio. Merry Christmas to you. And could you use a Leica as a second camera? Yep. I'll give you my address. Just email me. Unless you mean the one that I have, my Deluxe 8 or my LX100 Mark II. I've done that. I'll bring like one of my compact cameras, the LX100 or the Deluxe 8 as a second camera. But like I said, when I go out birding, typically, you know, that's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to focus on birding. And a lot of times I'll go out with just the 300 f4 and nothing else. And then even when I did bring the Deluxe 8, you know, you have to be in the mindset to do one thing or the other. At least I do. I can't, it's hard for me to concentrate on compositions with a wide angle, like a normal you know. And I know I'm contradicting myself again because I said I want the 150 to 400 to get a little bit wider. But like the Leica Deluxe 8 is a 24 to 75. It's not a 150 to 400. If I'm shooting telephoto, sometimes it is useful just to get a little wider, like 200 millimeters, right? So what would be the answer? Maybe bring maybe the 40 to 150 kit lens together with the OM3 and so I got the OM3, my second body could possibly be the OM1 or EM5. But I'd probably bring the OM1 because if I'm out birding. But yeah. But yeah, I think that's the way to go. probably EM5 Mark III with the 40 to 150 kit lens would be a great second body to the 300 f4. But ideally, I could just get the 150 to 400. That's what I really want. And Linda's here. Good to see you. Hi all. I'm late as per usual. I'm catching up. Just some German camera prices for comparison. The Z5 refurbished official Nikon site, 999 euros. Oh wow, that's a lot. Let me just look real quick. Nikon. It's not on sale anymore. 800 bucks now. This was on sale for 450 bucks last week, but now it's back up to 800. But I think you can find them on eBay for about 600. But any of these would be good. The Z5 or the Z6. Ooh, a ZF. I didn't even think of that. Depends on your budget, I guess. But if you want to spend some bucks, the ZF would be a kind of a cool camera to adapt vintage lenses to. Kind of goes with the vibe, right? They have a Z5 too for $13.59. Wow. $11.99 for a Z6 II. Wow. Tempting. Look at it. The Z6 II is $11.99. The original Z6 is $12.79. Why is this cheaper? It should be opposite. It should be more. Anywho, all right, so don't see anything new in the chat. Let me go ahead and let's take a couple of more shots I did this week. So let's see, this is a pano I did. Let me see what lens this was. Oh, where's the EXIF data? Oh, because I did a pano, I lost the EXIF data. Okay, this is corrected. But I can tell by looking at it. This is the 50mm f1.2 lens that I'm testing for Micro Four Thirds. It's from 7 Artisans, and I'm almost done. I'm almost done with it. I did the review for the Fuji camera because, their launch date was whatever day I released that video. But the OM System ones, I can take a little more time and get some interesting shots. But this is a 18 images, so 3 rows of 6 shots, panorama stitched together. So it came out to be, 30,000 by 12,000 pixels. So there's a lot of detail in here, when I punch in. This is a 100% crop. So just to give you an idea, like this little stone here, and I did this in high-res shot mode. As you can see, the very minor artifacts here in the water. But when you kind of look at it in a normal viewing, it looks like the water's a little bit smooth, but still has some texture, which I think is just perfect for this scene. But yeah, it's pretty good. It's not the sharpest lens ever, but you can. This is the kind of thing I like to do with short telephoto lenses on Micro Four Thirds, because this would be 100mm equivalent, right, on full frame. Is doing these multi-row panoramas. So this is 18 images stitched together. Let's see. I think this is the same shot. Oh no, this is different. This is one I did with the Sony, with a different lens, because I didn't have the high-res shot mode. But you can see a little kayaker down here. So I was testing both lenses when I was out. This is, did I name it? This is 7 images shot because this is a 24 millimeter focal length. So I didn't need to do as many images. 7 images did it. I didn't need to do 18. And this is actually even wider than the previous frame, right? This is much tighter than this one. But this is 7 images stacked together. And this is this only worked out to be about a 40 megapixel image from a 60 megapixel sensor. And that's because I cropped the top and the bottom off. This is also the 50 millimeter f1.2, I believe. Yeah. Of course, wide open at f1.2. There's some Christmas lights. This lens is interesting. I'm going to talk about this in the review, but it gives kind of a soap bubble effect to the bokeh here. Or, well, let me rephrase that, to the speculars. I really like that. It's very vintage. It's a very vintage feel. Just like I said in the Fuji review, the lens is very, very similar to buying a vintage 50 millimeter lens, right? Like an OM 50 millimeter 1.8. Here's another image. Same lens, OM3 with the 50 millimeter 1.2. This one came out a little better. Lots of good detail here. Not a very interesting picture, but it did illustrate the sharpness that this lens is capable of when you stop it down. This is also the 50 millimeter 1.2, just a sunrise shot. I just kind of like the speculars here on the fence line. I thought that was kind of neat. And the overall composition is just okay, but there was just this one interesting part here. Right in here. I probably should have cropped it tighter. Oh, and then Adam, you were asking me about straight out of camera. So I believe, no, this one's almost straight out of camera, not quite. I did pump up the speculars here on the fence so you can see it a little better, but this is almost straight out of camera. This image is definitely straight out of camera. I used monochrome profile, I think 3. I don't know, I tweaked it so it has the grain and everything in it, and the vignetting. I added the vignetting in the camera. So this is a straight out of camera with monochrome processing applied in camera. So vignetting and grain, and then a highlight and tone curve. So I get a little more contrast. This one here is pretty much straight out of camera, if not straight out of camera. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is straight out of camera as well. It's just cropped, right, to a square. And that's all I did. So a lot of these images are straight out of camera other than maybe some crop and tilt, right? Get the horizon straight or tilt it so that the lines are straight. I like this one here. Just the interference of the chain link fence, you know, with the background nice and sharp. I don't know why. I don't know why I like this image, but I liked it when I took it. This is another image, pretty much straight out of camera again. In fact, this is the full frame. I didn't crop or tilt this at all. So this is a straight out of camera JPEG. Again, one of the monochrome profiles, but without the grain. And the same 50 millimeter f1.2 lens. This one here, I believe, is straight out of camera. Same monochrome profile applied with no grain, but still has that vignetting. Just a quick snap, 50 millimeter f1.2. I was probably at f5.6 or f8 on this shot because it's pretty sharp across the frame. This one's shot at f1.2. This one is cropped in a bit, but yeah, this was straight out of camera other than the crop. I had to straighten something. Oh, I remember. There was a pole over here on the right side, so I cropped it in a little bit to get rid of the pole that was over here. But other than that, this is straight out of camera. This one is also straight out of camera. There's a little bit of perspective correction on this, you know, a tilt or something, but my lines were not straight in camera because I had to point the camera up a little bit. I could have used the skewing function in the camera, but that's just kind of awkward. So I just took this image, JPEG. I took the JPEG and just did a perspective correction on it, and I got this image. This is another image straight out of camera, other than some perspective correction again. But I just took the JPEG, did a little bit of straightening, and that was it there. And this one is the A7R5 with the 24mm lens. Same thing, A7R5 with the 24mm. Just some wide angle shots. I like this one. This one came out pretty nice. This was, of course, a sunrise. And I just like the train going by. There's a slight motion blur here. But adding some light here in the foreground, a nice strong light here in the background, and everything else is kind of silhouetted. The little spots of light down in here. It's a little bit processed just to bring out some of the highlights, but this is pretty representative of this street. This is Eisenhower Avenue in Alexandria. And I go here all the time when I want to do wide angle architectural type shots, when I do the reviews. This is another shot I've done 100 times. This is kind of like, I think for a lot of wildlife photographers, you know, how many shots of a Canada geese or blue heron do you need? This building, I have so many shots of this building, but I just like this building. And I like the street scene that I get with it. I like this particular angle in particular. So I've probably talked about this very similar image in previous streams, but I just like this line coming down, leading into the sunrise. And then, of course, we have a leading line here with the sidewalk. And then, you know, with the sunrise, you got this really great highlights and shadows in the buildings. So I just love this shot. One of my personal favorites. I didn't compose this one quite as well as some of the other times I've taken this, but overall it's a decent shot. One of my favorite apartment buildings across the street from the shot I just showed you. Just architecture. I've done a lot of shots of this building, some more interesting than others. I'll have to go back and do that multi-image. I've taken a shot of this building where I took like 50 shots of it from different angles and then blended them all together in Photoshop and got this really interesting montage. It's kind of a copy of or imitation of some other photographer's work that I've seen. And I wanted to try to get that effect. But anyway, this building is really ideal for that because there's lots of lines and angles to kind of intersect with each other and blend that make it really, really interesting. This shot by itself, you know, meh, you know, it's fine if you're trying to rent one of the units out of here. But it's like $3 grand for a little matchbox in here. It's crazy. Another sunrise shot, nothing special here. Same thing, but this time with the Sony A7R5 and that 24mm. Again, the 24mm. Another building that's kind of interesting. This, you know, this building's on the corner, so they rounded off the front. And the front door is here right on the corner. So it's kind of an interesting building amongst all of the other buildings that look very similar. And then, yeah, Wilkes Tunnel. I've done this probably 100 times also. But this tunnel never gets old. I love this tunnel. This is the, yeah, Sony A7R5 again with the 24mm. And another sort of dawn. It's not quite sunrise yet. This is just before the sun comes up over the horizon. I thought this, you know, I love this particular lounge area here, and just really nice curves and angles that intersect with the bridge in the background really nicely, and the brickwork. There's just so many interesting elements in this for me that I really enjoyed looking at this image. I know some people, this probably bores the tears, but you know, this is one of my favorite shots that I can do. There's lots of interesting, whoops, things like way in the back here. You can see the Ferris wheel and the Gaylord Center. Usually there's a plane or a bird here in the sky. But it's kind of a nice image. This is the only Christmassy thing I think I have, where they decorated this bar and grill that's on the water at sunrise. So I had to get there, not sunrise, this is still dawn. The sun hasn't quite come up yet. Because if the sun came up, then all the lights would be washed out, right? You wouldn't see any of the colors or the lights. But yeah, they did a good job decorating this. I have other shots of this bar without all the lights on it, and it's still a nice place, but they really dressed it up for the season. Okay, I'll save a couple of these for a little bit later. All right, so let me get back to the chat. So I take the All-in-One Mark II and 12-100 f4 for travel. It covers everything. Take a smaller camera with the smallest lens for the evenings and street. The first kit solves weather issues and it's right. Yeah, that 12-100 is a really great all-around lens. It really is. It's just the size that keeps me from getting it. It's similar to the 150-600. I just prefer a smaller kit overall, or as small as possible. And John, good to see you. And George, good to see you. What's the best final length to make me appear thinner with more hair? Ooh. You know what? I would shoot a super wide angle fisheye, and then I would stand back about 20 feet. And that'll make you look really thin, and you'll be so small in the frame that nobody will see your hairline. Chuck says, I'm surprised I can still see considering how much I compose into the sun. I love highly compressed sunset shots. Oh, thanks. Yeah, thank God for EVF, right? Electronic viewfinders. I can't tell you, like, when I was shooting DSLRs, you know, how many times, you know, I would just be seeing spots all day because, you know, I was doing sunrise, sunsets through the EVF or through the optical viewfinder. That's a big no-no. Don't do that, man. That's bad for your eyes. And with the EVF, though, no problem, right? No, it does not have a black and white profile. It has a black and white. Let me just double check. I thought it would have like something fancy, right? But I don't recall that it does. Otherwise, I'd have been using it by now. Yeah, it has black and white natural, which I think is just a black and white conversion. It doesn't do any processing. And it has black and white high contrast. So, yeah. I don't have a real Leica to compare, though. So I don't know. I don't know if the black and white natural or the black and white high contrast is similar to the black and white profiles that you find like in a real Leica. Because technically this is not a Leica, right? It's a Panasonic. But so my short answer is probably not. You have a Leica, though, I think. We'll have to take the same shot and compare. And Darko says, Rob, best of the holidays for you and your family. Thank you. Same to you, Darko. Happy holidays. And so has Santa Trek been good to you? Not yet. I'll know on Christmas Day, but it doesn't matter. All that matters is spending time with your family and friends, right? During the holidays. The gifts are just kind of a bonus, but the real joy and happiness from Christmas and the holidays come from being with your family, right? And Trek 2026 will rock, I'm sure. Yes, I hope so. And Chuck says, I may upgrade from the A7 IV to the 5. I usually don't sell my cameras, but I'll see how much I can get for the 4. So I'm trying to think, man, there's been a lot of praise going on for the 5. What was it? I think it was primarily the autofocusing. I can't remember. I mean, I watched a couple of videos on it. But I didn't see it. I don't know. I don't shoot Sony enough. I have my A7R5, which is fine. I just don't shoot Sony enough to be able to give you any opinion on that making any sense. But it doesn't matter. You didn't ask me what I thought, right? You're just telling me. So I hope you can get a lot for it. I know brand new the A7 IV is selling for like 2,000 now. They've discounted it quite a bit. So hopefully you can get 2,000, not 2,000, but 1,800 for it. There's the used Sonys are still getting a pretty good premium. So hopefully you get enough. And then the new one is what, $2,900. So let's say there's $1,000 gap between your A7 IV and A7 V. If that makes sense, then that's not too bad. If it's about $1,000 gap, that's not too bad to upgrade. And Claude Spammer says, I just want to thank you. You've been doing photography as a hobby for a few years with my Olympus EM10 Mark III and 40-150 lens. Based off your recommendation, happy holiday. Oh, well, you're welcome. That's a great little setup. So the 40-150, yep. I love that lens. I use it on a regular basis. And the A7 V isn't a big thing anymore, right? Sony just caught up to Canon and Nikon. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. I do remember watching Chris and Jordan talking about the Z6 III, A7 V, and Canon. Is it the Mark III now? Whatever, the latest versions of the Z6, R6, and A7. Can't go wrong with any of them, right? So that's all I know about those 3 cameras. It's weird how those cameras just don't appeal to me a whole lot, though. I mean, of course, because I have an awesome, OM3, maybe that's why. But I don't get the right now, says the guy with like 3 full frame cameras, but right now I don't get the lure of a full frame camera. But I do like shooting with them. Because I do everything. I do the macro, I do the birding, I do, just street, architectural, and I do events. The OM3 does all of that and does it really well. Like when I was having dinner with my friend last night, I say I was doing 50 frames per second, and she goes, "Your camera does 50 frames per second with autofocus?" I said, "Yeah." And she's shooting a Sony A1. I think she's limited to like 30, but she wasn't getting 50, if I recall. I don't know exactly what the specs are on that camera, but not too many cameras can do 50 frames per second with autofocus. Arguably, does it do it as good as the other cameras? I don't know. A lot of people say not, but it's more than good enough for me. and lets me experiment and do all kinds of things. The in-camera stacking. I even used the Grad ND filter. I'll show you that image. I used the Grad ND filter yesterday. I used the high-res shot mode, and I didn't do any stacking yesterday. I didn't bring my macro lens, but it's just amazing how versatile that little camera is, that I can do everything and do it really well, you know, particularly the birding. You know, whether it's the OM3, OM1, you know, before that, the M1 Mark III. These cameras are like just little Swiss Army knives, right? They can just do everything. And I've been really happy, so happy with it, that the only reason I take out the, you know, like the Sony a7R5, I was just gassing for a high megapixel sensor. So A7R5 was it, right? And then I was gassing for Fujifilm colors. So I got an X-H2. Great camera. And I do like the Fuji colors, you know. It had been interesting to see all of these images done with the Fuji that I've been taking lately. How different they would look, because they would look different. And then Canon R8, that camera I bought really for a couple of reasons. They weren't necessarily related to photography. They were more related to me getting familiar with the Canon system more and being able to tutor students, because a lot of students I have in the past, and currently one, but a lot of people use Canon, and it was really hard to, it just doesn't look good when you have to fumble with the menu, right? You want to be able to just kind of zip in, oh, it's right here, let's do this, right? So that was part of it, probably 20%. 80% was the grip on that R8. The way that felt in my hand felt so good. It just, and it, you know, it's a small lightweight camera, and it's full frame, 24 megapixels. And Canon has some great glass. So, and I got it for $11.99, brand new, all of that, right? And I got the lens for like $300. So it wasn't a big nut to crack to get into the Canon system and get one of their best, you know, for the money. The only thing that camera lacks is really the battery life. That battery life is killing me. And it lacks a few other things the OM3 doesn't have. But the way that camera handles in general is really, it's a pleasure to use. And of course, the images coming out of it are fine, but I don't know what it is, but I really like the Canon system. I really like just the overall operation, and you know, the menus are fine. I don't know what it is about the Canon. I'm gonna have to shoot with it more and try to put my finger on why I like it so much. Because it really is a really nice little camera, and I really like the images out of it. I'm not gonna say I like it more than OM3, but it's got me intrigued to thinking, you know, investing into more Canon glass. You know, like maybe getting a macro lens, or getting one of their super telephotos, like their 800 f11, you know, things like that. It's a really interesting system, but I don't shoot with it enough right now. But those are the kind of the core cameras I rotate through. You know, the Pentax monochrome is awesome. If I want to do black and white photography, I will definitely take out the Pentax. I also have the Pentax K3 Mark I, which, with help from XMeta, is one of my favorite cameras too. You know, it's just a DSLR experience, but the colors in the Pentax and the lenses for the Pentax are they're also stellar. And just the being able to appreciate the thoughtfulness and design and functions that they put into a camera from like 10 years ago. I don't know how old it is. It just makes it even more endearing, right, for me to use. Even though it's autofocus is something a lot to be desired, it's a very endearing camera. And the Pentax K3 monochrome, having a dedicated monochrome sensor, there's just no way to express the difference in tonality that you get from a true monochrome. You can see it once you start shooting with it. It's, you know, in a blind test, yeah, you're gonna get me. I'm not gonna be able to tell the difference. But when I'm shooting my own camera side by side, one with a black and white profile, and then shooting the Pentax monochrome and its native monochrome, I can see the difference and I can appreciate the difference. And like I said, and you can get lenses for cheap. So it's a very cheap system to get into and enjoy. Just, you know, you have to be kind of a hobbyist though, right? You have to enjoy all different kinds of cameras. Okay, Chuck says, oh, I thought you had tested the 5, but it was the A7R5. Yeah, the silent shutter on the 4 isn't so great. Oh, okay. And Moxie says, besides OM Ambassadors, what other tube channels do you recommend? Ooh, well, you know, I think you'll really enjoy, it depends what kind of photography. If you like street photography, Peter Forsgaard has an awesome channel and is always giving very straightforward advice, right? Lists, right? 7 things you can do here, 5 things you can do here. Really great street photographer and really amazing photographer. He has great imagery. And just really gives a very simplified, you know, very easy to follow techniques, right, or methodology to taking photos. And then Matty's very similar. He does a lot of street photography. Sometimes Matty Solanto, he does collaborations time to time with Peter and also with Robin Wong. But he's, you know, he's also an amazing photographer, and he's been doing more gear reviews lately, but sometimes he'll team up with his buddy and they'll talk about photography, and they have some really interesting conversations that are photography related. Now, if you're into other genres, then, gosh, I'm thinking like macro, Emily Taupin is really good for us. She's an OM. So you said other than OM System Ambassadors. Let me see. Because I really don't watch anybody else personally. I'll watch the occasional Thomas Heaton, you know, landscape stuff, because he's a good storyteller. And that's about it, I'm thinking. Let me just look up my YouTube history real quick. Putting me on the spot. I can't think of people I watch. So if I go to this page, click on my history, I watch a lot of, okay, so I watched a lot of random stuff, photography related. But I think really some videos that are the videos you should watch that I do a lot of is about the subject that I'm taking a picture of. So I'll watch a lot of videos on architecture, right? Because I like to take pictures of buildings and houses and things like that. So I'll watch buildings on architecture. You know, what kind of design is these arches or these columns, or is this colonial, you know, or is this, you know, Gothic, or is this, Oh, what's the other one called? But yeah, God, my memory is so bad. But yeah, I like to watch a lot of videos about a particular subject that I'm going to be taking pictures of. So, like I was taking pictures of dragonflies, so I watched a few videos on dragonflies. I watched some some videos on ants, or backyard birding. There's a guy that knows everything about birds, so I'll watch videos about birds, uh, and things like that. And I think that is far more useful to your photography than, say, watching uh, a gear review or watching, um, yeah, basically gear reviews and talking about gear. I mean, there's a lot of tutorials on how to use the camera, and I think going to the ambassador channels are the best for that, right? How to use the camera, watching the ambassador channels, because that's basically their job unofficially, right? Is to teach you how to use the OM systems and inspire you to get out there and shoot. But I found watching videos about the subjects I want to take pictures of far more useful in helping me get out there. Not only does it inspire me and make things very fascinating and interesting when I go out and shoot, so that I'm really enjoying my time and observing things, but also, you know, being able to predict or get the better shot or the shots that are interesting. Like, gosh, it's hard to explain, but yeah, I think I get so much more enjoyment out of my photography when I can go out and identify things and understand the behavior of things when I'm shooting them. Like, why did they design a building this way? Or why is the bird just sitting there forever, then suddenly take off and do this other thing? Or why are these two animals, what are they, all kinds of things. Uh, those are the things I like to watch if I'm going to be thinking about photography. I don't know if that makes sense at all, but the only photography related things I like to watch are like when they talk about the masters of photography. Like, I really love portrait photography, and I like watching videos about lighting techniques and things that they did for portrait photography. So you just have to kind of find what niche you're interested in, and then find videos about that subject that you want to take pictures of. Yeah, modern Canon cameras just don't capture my attention. Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I mean, I like the R8, but I don't shoot with it that much. But something about it, I don't know what it is. And I use my Sony for wildlife. The autofocus is the main draw over the EM1 Mark III. Yeah, that makes sense because uh, the EM1 Mark III doesn't have subject to text, so it's you have to be really good at tracking yourself, right? The animals. And Heather says, "You're so funny about that OM3. Your love for that camera is apparent on your talks." Yeah, I do love that camera. No question. Any recommendation for a good workflow to catalog and classify your photos? I'm using OM Workspace Colors collection of folders, but it's painfully slow on my 2019 laptop. I also edit in same app. Okay, so um, really the only reliable way to because I jump around between all different software, right? Lightroom, DxO, occasionally Workspace, maybe Affinity, whatever. A lot of different panorama or dedicated type stitching software like Helicon and my Autopanic Giga. And these things do not share cataloging systems, right? But I need the software for different reasons, right? DxO is my primary one, but it doesn't do stitching or stacking. And Photoshop does layering. It does stitching and stacking, but not as good as the other dedicated software. That's why I have those. But Photoshop does layering and exposure blending and things that I need to do that I can't do in DxO. And then Affinity is kind of new, so I'm just experimenting with that. But you know, there's reasons I have all these different softwares, and you know, the best cataloging method is just using your own computer's folder hard drive system, right? And I do it, I mean, I can just show you. Let me see. It's pretty straightforward. Hard drive's got to spin up 1 second. So I don't know how hard this is to see, but I have a working hard drive for 2025, and then I have a folder called 2025, and then I break that up into 4 quarters. So it's basically chronological. And then within each quarter, I go by day, and then I just name whatever photo walk I did. So, you know, France's birthday, Chinese Dragon, Dyke Marsh, Great Falls, Pentax at Great Falls, Mount Vernon. Because, you know, like this is the same day, 2013 or February 13th, but I used 2 different cameras. Well, no, this one, I did Panos in one folder and I did Pentax in another folder. So on and on and on. So I name everything for that day. Sometimes I break the day into separate pieces. And then I got the 4 quarters. And then eventually, I'll let that spin up. I will offload them onto another drive. When 2025 passes, I will offload those onto another drive. So you can see in this folder, I have 2018, 2019, 2021, and then within that, I have first quarter, second quarter, etc., right? And then again, the same thing. And then things that are not chronological, I have my projects. So like my projects are currently are primarily just gear reviews. You know, 7 artists and 6mm f2s, you know, and then like I just got it yesterday, so I got 1 folder here. But the 7 Artisans 50mm f1.2, again, just chronological and then by name. So I'll put specific projects into their own folder. These are typically client projects, right? Client folders that I'm working on. And then when I'm done, I will move them to my client hard drive, which is here. This also has, I just did some rearranging, but this is basically the workflow I have, right? So here's the individual years, 2022, 2023, and then I have my clients folder. And then I have some miscellaneous stuff in other. This is like when I do my photo editing live streams, or I have some clip art, you know, that I like to reuse, things like that. And then these are my video folders that I put on YouTube. So pretty straightforward workflow for cataloging my images. Is basically chronological. And then I separate things that need to be separated, you know, like clients, I keep separate, and that's always on one drive. And for everything that you saw there, that's just what's connected to my computer. But I always have backups of everything. So I have 2 copies of 2021, 2 copies of 2022, etc. So that's my backup system. And, you know, we can talk about backups all day long. Some people like to have another backup off-site, and then people like to have off-site and on the cloud. I mean, you can kind of go crazy with. I've just decided that my photography is not that important, so I'm not going to worry about cloud or having things off-site. If my house burns down and everything is gone, it's gone. You know, it's okay. I have Flickr. I have all my keepers on Flickr, so That's kind of a cloud backup, but not really. It's not everything. Um, so I hope that makes sense. Hope that was helpful. I would avoid using like the project folders that a lot, like I think Lightroom has project folders, DxO has project folders that you can set up to help you manage your assets. Some people do that, but what I'm finding is, like, I use Flickr. If I need to find a photo and I can't remember, because this is very common, you can't remember what day or what year you took a picture, but you clearly remember taking it and you know exactly what picture you want. So like when Eric asked me earlier about what do I think about the 150 to 600 lens, immediately I thought of a hummingbird picture, right? There's no way I would remember exactly what year, what quarter, let alone what day I took that picture. Trying to find it using the method that I just showed you is virtually impossible, right? So because I upload everything to Flickr, all I had to do was, not everything, but I upload most of my halfway decent or educational images, comparisons. I load a lot of things up to Flickr that I might want to talk about or see later. Then I can just type in the word, because they have their own AI-based search algorithms built into Flickr. You know, I just typed in the Flickr hummingbird photo, and then all of my hummingbird photos came up, which aren't that many. And then I could quickly find and show Eric the hummingbird photo with reference to the 150 to 600. Now, there are third-party apps available that will do that kind of cataloging for you of your own images, right? On your computer. There's a couple of different ways to do that. You can do that with third-party software. I can't name any offhand. You'll have to just do your own due diligence and find some decent third-party software that does that, or maybe somebody in the chat can recommend one. But there's third-party software that will do an AI analysis of all your photos and find people and find, you know, animals, things like that. It'll do exactly what Flickr does. There's other software out there that come with hardware. So if you buy an external NAS system, like a backup system where you have network attack storage drives, that will come with software that will automatically scan your images and do the same kind of thing so that you can find things just by keywords. So there's a couple of things. There's a couple of things out there now that will help you find images, but the way I catalog them is, but obviously the limitation is a lot of it relies on your memory, right? What year did I take that picture? What quarter? What day? And that's one of the major downsides, but the upside is it's very easy to create, and it works really well with my short-term memory. Like, I can usually remember, when did I go to this location? Oh, I went somewhere in February, and then I'll go to the second quarter, and then I'll look through, and because I named each day, I can quickly skim through and say, okay, there it is. So I can usually find things within the last year or two, no problem. But it's when you go back 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 10 years, how am I going to find that photo? And that's when you need some kind of third-party app, like I was talking about. So the Nikon offer was a special sale. Yeah, yep. The Z5. I'm feeling the Swiss knife even with my own 5s, yep. And Chuck says, Sony has the worst colors. It's always golden out. Oh my God, I know. I got to show you a couple images. I'll wrap the stream up with some images. For 450 bucks, I'd have taken it in a heartbeat. I know. So I was really tempted to get it for 450 bucks, I was like, man, that's about what I spend on fuel oil every month. So now you're thinking Canon too. Yeah, I have a Canon. I'm not thinking it. I have one. I don't think I'll get into it though. I think I'm quite content with my R8. I just don't see a need to. But I am tempted to get another lens for the R8. One more. Maybe building up my lens collection for the R system, but we'll see. And Jeff says, my first digital camera was a Canon 300D. I remember a 1 gig compact flash card. Yeah, cost 150 pounds. I know. Yep. And Eric is here. Good morning, Eric. Just barely made McDonald's breakfast. Now my day is good. Yeah, God, I'm getting hungry, actually. All the people from the last year's gathering are always good watches. Yep. And are you planning this year's gathering? Yes, I am planning one. And Brian James, that Micro Four Thirds guy is great, though he does less videos lately. He has years of breadth of content. Yes. And Chris Bastian, I thought he was ambassador, maybe not. And Eric says, I was over dropping off a computer on Eisenhower Avenue. I see where you took many shots in that area. Nice spot parking in the big lot. Only $8. Yeah. Well, I get there before parking. You don't have to pay for parking until 8 a.m. So I get there like 6 a.m., 6:30ish, and then I take pictures until 8. And then I'm hustling. Man, I was running. I was running back. I got back to my car like at 8:15, and thankfully I didn't get a ticket. But yeah, paid parking starts at 8 a.m. And I've tried using DxO PureRAW 5, and I get an error message when I try loading a RAW photo taken with my own cameras. Any suggestions? They are RAW photos. Ooh, I'm not as familiar with PureRAW 5. The only thing I can is the OM cameras. There shouldn't be any issues. The only thing I can recommend is maybe try. That shouldn't matter though. I would just, if there's an option in PureRAW 5 somewhere in the performance settings to check whatever is available there and try a couple of different variations, but also try clearing any caches if that's an available option. Because I know in DxO Photolab, I can clear caches and adjust performance settings. I think you can do the same thing in PureRAW 5. But I don't know off the top of my head, but they should open and process. I've never had any problems really opening a file. But I know sometimes clearing the cache can help. And Marco says, do you know if DxO's license allows Photolab to be installed on more than one PC? Yeah, it's 3. I think you get 3 licenses with it. And my parents somehow got a gigabit of fiber, $50 a month, so I back up everything to their place via VPN. Oh, wow. 50 bucks a month. Wow. And at least 2 devices. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 3 though. Flickr is making a comeback. Thanks, Rob. Oh, it is. I hope so, man. Flickr is awesome. And Julio says, Xire software does AI type cataloging. I don't use it because I have been using Lightroom for years. Okay. Yeah, I think I've heard of Xire. But that's, yeah, like I said, that's a good place to start is with Xire. And then from there you can just kind of Google Xire versus and then leave that blank, and they'll probably give you a good list. Okay, let me show a couple more photos and then we'll call it here. So I showed those. I don't know if I showed this one. This again is the Sony. Just kind of a nice scene of this dock. They have this big tall sailing ship that you can kind of buy tickets and take a ride in. It's not there now. I don't know where it is, but uh, another wide angle Sony shot, black and white, process and Nik collection. This is the same Sony, but I just did kind of a selfie. I put it on self timer and walked out. Took 5 frames and it got this one shot. But there's the Woodrow Wilson Bridge, and this is along the shore in Alexandria. It's cold, man, let me tell you. Same area, you know, there's the bridge, of course, as a reference point. Get nice sun stars out of this lens. Yep, another dawn shot in Alexandria. I'm just kind of walking up, making my way up the shore. And yep, same shot. There's a little duck down here. But you know, these wide angle lenses, they're so wide, both vertically and horizontally, so I just crop out the top and bottom. So that's why I do a lot of 16:9 or wider when I use wide angle lenses. Yeah, same thing here, another 16:9 crop, but a little marina here in Alexandria. And then this is really way too yellow. I wonder if I uploaded the wrong color profile by mistake. But anyway, this is same 24mm lens, but I just cropped it to, this looks like a 65:24 or something, you know, super wide. Oh, I got this yesterday at Huntley Meadows. Little blue heron catching a fish. That was kind of a cool shot. And there's he kind of ruffling his feathers. And catching another fish. The lighting was really amazing last night. And there he is diving for the fish. I think this is the shot before. I don't know what the sequence is. Or it might be, yeah, the sequence number is way off, so it's probably a totally different fish. Same heron though, same one. And the only thing I'll make of note here, photographically or technique-wise, is I was very, very low to the ground. I had my camera hanging over the pier. I was hanging the camera down below the pier, and the neck strap actually fell in the water and got soaked. But I was holding the camera with 2 hands, hopefully not dropping it. And if I did, yeah, everything would be ruined, but the water's only about 1 foot deep, so I would have been able to get it back. It just probably be, you know, be ruined. Yeah, this is the shot I showed earlier about stacking, I think. Yeah, so here's some this is with the 6mm fisheye lens that I was showing you earlier from 7 Artisans. So you can definitely see the fisheye effect here, right? The distortion. But this is a straight out of camera shot, monochrome profile with a red filter, because the skies are really dark. So I had to use a red filter on this one. And same thing here. Pretty much straight out of camera. I cropped a little bit on this corner down here because you could see the pier. So I just cropped it a little smaller to get that part out. It's very hard to work with a super wide angle and not get things in the frame that you don't want. So I took the shot knowing I was going to have to crop that little corner out. This one I didn't have to crop. This is pretty much straight out of camera, one of the monochrome profiles. Again, straight out of camera, monochrome profile. But this one I did a little bit of fisheye distortion correction. So it is cropped slightly because of that, but other than that, pretty much straight out of camera. And this one I processed. I used Nik collection just to give a little softer feel, but this is the same shot as the other one from the straight out of camera shot, but this one I processed. This is also processed. This is the sunset at Huntley Meadows. I just thought the lines here were kind of interesting with from the plane, these jet trails. And it was kind of nice how the clouds sort of just kind of framed everything nice and around. So I thought this was an interesting shot. And then we talked about this guy, and that's it. So, let's see, Mark Wolf said, what's your favorite lenses for Nikon F-mount? The 24 to 85, I think. Oh, I can't remember the exact. Okay, so this is ultimately my favorite lens. 24 to 85. It's a 3.5 to 4.5 VR. The VR version. The non-VR, no. The VR version is the one I like. And then for primes, of course, the Nifty 50 is good. And I really liked the Zeiss 35 f2 that I had. I sold it because it was, I was shooting Micro Four Thirds all the time. So and it was worth some money, and I wanted to buy, I think I traded it for my 300 f4, but I got rid of my Zeiss 35. But that was an amazing lens, Zeiss Disticon 35 f2. But the 35 f2.8 Nikon D, yeah, that was a D lens. That's a great lens. And going back a little bit older, the AI versions, the 105 2.5, really nice focal length. And the 135 f3.5 is also really good. So that's basically my whole Nikon collection. 135 3.5, 105 2.5, the 51.8, the 35 2.8, and this 24 to 85. But that's kind of my favorite one because it's autofocus. Not that I mind manually focusing time to time, but just having that zoom range and a little bit of VR, that I'd say that's my #1 lens right now. And it's tack sharp, very, very sharp. There's several photography culling software for cataloging. Imagen and Aftershoot are good, but may require a subscription. Okay, very good. Appreciate that. All right, so I think that's the end. Oh, there's a couple more. David says, great shows, great live show, and wishing you happy holidays. Yes, happy holidays, David. And well, I'm planning to buy that 24 to 85 VR lens for a long time now. Now's the time to finally get one. Thanks. No problem. It's a great lens. I mean, it's a little bulky. I paid like $180 for mine in mint condition. I don't know what the current pricing is. And this is my Nikon DF. This is a great camera. But you won't regret this lens. And you have to buy the lens hood. You don't have to buy the lens hood for it. I did. I bought a, they claim this is OEM. I don't know if this is really an OEM lens hood or not because it feels a little bit flimsy. But the lens hood is humongous on here. Look at how tall that is. It's, 2/3 the size of the lens. But I got that for $13. So about $200 for the lens and the lens hood in mint condition. Okay, happy holidays. Yes, happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. I'll try and be back again live at least 1 or 2 more times. I'll probably definitely be back next week for after Christmas sales, right? It's the best way to support the channel is use my affiliate links down below or make direct donations, all the usual stuff. The links are down below for that. But thanks everyone for joining me today. I really appreciate it. It's always a lot of fun chatting with you guys. And I wish you guys a wonderful holiday and Happy New Year. So thanks so much for joining me today. And I hope to see you all again soon.